Boombox is a common term for a portable cassette or CD player with two or more loudspeakers and a carrying handle. Other commonly used terms are ghetto blaster, jambox, boomblaster, Brixton briefcase, and radio-cassette. A boombox is a device typically capable of receiving radio stations and playing recorded music. Many models are also capable of recording onto cassette tapes from radio and other sources. Designed for portability, boomboxes can be powered by batteries as well as by line current. The boombox was introduced to the American market during the mid-1970s. The desire for louder and heavier bass led to bigger and heavier boxes. By the 1980s, some boomboxes had reached a size of a suitcase. Most boomboxes were battery-operated, leading to extremely heavy, bulky boxes. History. The first boombox was developed by the inventor of the audio compact cassette, Philips of the Netherlands. Their first radio recorder was released in 1966. The Philips innovation was the first time that radio broadcasts could be recorded onto cassette tapes without the cables or microphones that previous stand-alone cassette tape recorders required. Although sound quality of early tape recordings was poor, improvements in technology and the introduction of stereo recording, chromium tapes, and noise reduction made HiFi quality devices possible. Several European electronics brands, such as Grundig, also introduced similar devices. Boomboxes were soon also developed in Japan in the early 1970s and became popular there due to their compact size and impressive sound quality. The Japanese brands soon took over a large portion of the European boombox market and were often the first Japanese consumer electronics brands that a European household might purchase. The Japanese innovated by creating different sizes, form factors, and technology, introducing such advances as stereo boomboxes, removable speakers, inbuilt TV receivers, and inbuilt CD players. The boombox was introduced to the American market during the mid-1970s, with the bulk of production being carried out by Panasonic, Sony, Marantz, and General Electric. It was immediately noticed by the urban adolescent community and soon had a large market, especially in metropolitan centers such as New York, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. The earlier models were a hybrid that combined the booming sound of large in-home stereo systems and the portability of small portable cassette players. They were typically small, black or silver, heavy, and capable of producing high volumes. The effective AM/FM tuner, standard in all early boomboxes, was the most popular feature of the early boombox up until the incorporation of input and output jacks into the boxes, which allowed for the coupling of devices such as microphones and turntables. The development of audio jacks brought the boombox to the height of its popularity, and as its popularity rose, so did the level of innovation in the features included in the box. Consumers enjoyed the portability and sound quality of boomboxes, but one of the most important features, especially to the youth market, was the bass. The desire for louder and heavier bass led to bigger and heavier boxes. Regardless of the increasing weight and size, the devices continued to become larger to accommodate the increased bass output. Newer boombox models were affixed with heavy metal casings to handle the vibrations from the bass. Design. A boombox, in its most basic form, is composed of two or more loudspeakers, an amplifier, a radio tuner, and a cassette or CD player component, all housed in a single plastic or metal case with a handle for portability. Most units can be powered by AC or DC cables in addition to batteries. As boomboxes grew in popularity, they also became more complex in design and functionality. By the late 1980s, many boomboxes included separate high and low frequency speakers and a second tape deck to allow the boombox to record off of both the radio and other pre-recorded cassettes. Equalizers, balance adjusters, Dolby noise reduction, and LED sound gauges were other later additions. In the mid-1980s, the boombox began to become a status symbol. The popularity among young urbanites caused increasing demand for extravagant boxes. The introduction of the compact disc in the early 1990s led to the introduction of the CD player and standard boombox design. As the 1990s continued, boombox manufacturers began designing smaller, more compact boomboxes, which were often made out of plastic instead of metal as their counterparts from the previous decade had been. The rectangular, angular, chrome aesthetic of many 1980s models was frequently replaced with black plastic in the 1990s, and modern designs are typically characterized by curves instead of right angles. However, the designs of older models are a source of much interest among enthusiasts and collectors, who frequently seek the larger feature-packed models. Most modern boomboxes come with iPod docks to access MP3 technology, and some even come equipped with integrated or removable satellite radio tuners. Boombox designs vary greatly in size. Larger, more powerful units may require 10 or more size D batteries, may measure more than 760 mm in width, and can weigh more than 12 kilograms. Some take a 12-volt sealed lead-acid battery, or can be a portable enclosure for a car audio head unit. Audio quality and feature sets vary widely, with high-end models providing features and sound comparable to some home stereo systems. Most models offer volume, tone and balance controls. Most brands were manufactured in Japan by companies such as Aiwa, Sanyo, Hitachi, JVC, Panasonic, Sharp, Sony, and Toshiba. More sophisticated models may feature dual cassette decks, separate bass and treble level controls, 5 or 10 band graphic equalizers, Dolby noise reduction, analog or LED sound level meters, larger speakers, soft touch tape deck controls, multiple shortwave band reception with fine-tuning, automatic song search functions for cassettes, line and or phono inputs and outputs, microphone inputs, loudness switches, and detachable speakers. A handful of models even featured an integrated vinyl record player, an 8-track tape player or a television screen, although the basic radio cassette models have historically been by far the most popular. Cultural significance. The boombox quickly became associated with urban society, particularly African American and Hispanic youth. The wide use of boomboxes in urban communities led to the boombox being coined a ghetto blaster, a nickname which was soon used as part of a backlash against the boombox and hip-hop culture. Cities began banning boomboxes from public places, and they became less acceptable on city streets as time progressed. The boombox became intrinsically linked to hip-hop culture and, as Fab Five Freddy puts it, was instrumental in the rise of hip-hop. Certain models like the JVC RCM90 and the Sharp GF777 were known as the boombox kings, having the power to drown out other ghetto blasters. They were frequently used in music battles. The Beastie Boys embraced the boombox as a signature, The Clash always had a boombox with them, and Schoolie D carried around a Conian 100th CF in the UK. Music LL Cool J's radio album, JVC RCM90. The song I Can't Live Without My Radio, from this album, is a love song to the boombox. The Justified Ancients of Mew Mew's All You Need Is Love. The video for this song unveiled the KLF logo, the Pyramid Blaster, which fused a pyramid with a ghetto blaster. The pyramid referred to the Illuminatus trilogy, since Bill Drummond had worked on the stage version of this trilogy. The Beastie Boys' Solid Gold Hits compilation album has a JVC RCM90 and a 1984 image by Josh Choose, Stereo Hearts, by Gym Class Heroes featuring Adam Levine of Maroon 5, makes reference to the boombox in the second verse. Music videos. Daft Punk's Da Funk, an anthropomorphic dog walks around New York with a boombox playing the song. In Madonna's Hung Up, she gyrates to a Dynasty Disco Light ES555. Madonna's Sorry also features the Disco Light ES555. Lady Gaga's Just Dance has the Disco Light ES555 as well. The Lonely Island's boombox features a Lasonic 931. Tim Finn's Fraction Too Much Friction features boomboxes. Eminem's Berserk features Eminem rapping and standing in front of a giant boombox for most of the video. Jules Larson's Silly features Jules walking all around Los Angeles carrying a large vintage boombox. Michael Jackson's Jam features a boombox. Films Fame. Leroy is listening to a boombox with headphones attached and the teacher turns it off and informs him in the future, Mr. Johnson, you will leave your ghetto blaster at home. Flashdance, a breakdancing scene with rocksteady crew, break-in, a stickered-up Clayton 7980/Conian C100F Helix HX4635 and an unidentified model, Crush Groove, LL Cool J and the Fat Boys sport boomboxes. The wildlife, Jim carries a boombox throughout the film. The Last Dragon, in the Some Dumb Guy Fortune Cookie Company in New York's Chinatown sits another Clayton 7980/Conian C100F Helix HX4635 on top of some boxes, an HGM International used by breakdancing kids in a movie theater that gets broken, and a Toshiba RT150 on the lap of an urban youth. Disorderlies, film poster features a Crown CSC 850, The Living Daylights. Q demonstrates a boombox rocket launcher to James Bond, calling it a ghetto blaster. Do the Right Thing. Radio Raheem constantly listens to Public Enemy's Fight the Power on his J1 Super Jumbo boombox wherever he goes. Say Anything. Lloyd Dobler serenades Diane Court with a boombox, Kung Pao. Enter the Fist. The boombox henchman shows up in many of the fight scenes following Betty around while playing rap music while he fights. Star Trek IV. The Voyage Home, Spock administers a Vulcan nerve pinch to a punk who refuses to turn down his boombox on a city bus. In A Night at the Roxbury, Doug interrupts Steve's wedding carrying a boombox, and the boombox is playing the song, What Is Love by Hardaway. Also, throughout the film either Doug or Steve is seen carrying a boombox at dance clubs, while the two bob their heads to the Hardaway song. Other appearances The 1980s television game show Press Your Luck's animated character Whammy would sometimes breakdance next to a boombox. In 2006, the Smithsonian National Museum of American History created an exhibition called Hip Hop Won't Stop, The Beat, The Rhymes, The Life, which featured, among other things, a Sharp HK9000 boombox that belonged to Fab 5 Freddy. Photographer Lyle Oako, who has a collection of over 50 boomboxes, documented the cultural history of the device in his 2010 book The Boombox Project, The Machines, the Music and the Urban Underground, with a foreword by Spike Lee. Duke from Cartoon Network's The Amazing World of Gumball is a boombox-headed character that is a student in Elmore Junior High. Decline. The 1990s were a turning point for the boombox in popular culture. The rise of the Walkman and other advanced electronics eliminated the need to carry around such large and heavy audio equipment, and boomboxes quickly disappeared from the streets. As boombox enthusiast Lyle Oako puts it, towards the end of any culture, you have the second or third generation that steps into the culture, which is so far from the origination, it's the impression of what's real, but it's not the full definition of what's real. It's just cheesy. The Consumer Electronics Association reported that only 329,000 boombox units without CD players were shipped in the United States in 2003, compared to 20.4 million in 1986. Compressed digital audio and the future of boomboxes. Although many boomboxes had dual cassette decks and included dubbing, line, and radio recording capabilities, the rise of recordable CDs, the decline of audio cassette technology, and the popularity of high-density MP3 players and smartphones have reduced the popularity of high-quality boomboxes to such an extent that it is difficult to find a new dual-decked stereo. Dubbing remains popular among audiophiles, bootleggers, and pirates, though most tasks are now accomplished through digital means or analog-to-digital conversion technology. Most modern boomboxes include a CD player compatible with CDR and CDRW, which allows the user to carry their own music compilations on a higher fidelity medium. Many also permit iPod and similar devices to be plugged into them through one or more auxiliary ports. Some also support formats such as MP3 and WMA. The simplest way to connect an older boombox to an MP3 player is to use a cassette adapter, which interfaces an MP3 player's output directly to the cassette player's heads. The line-in can be used if the boombox has one. Some modern boombox designs provide other connections for MP3 such as a USB connector for use with a removable USB drive, slots for various flash memory media such as SD, MMC, smart media, and memory stick, or even a CD drive capable of reading MP3s directly from a CD, thus allowing for a relatively cheap and large music storage to be carried and played back at full volume. Starting in mid-2010, there are new lines of boomboxes that use Bluetooth technology known as stereo Bluetooth, or A2DP. They use the wireless Bluetooth technology to stream audio to the boombox from a compatible Bluetooth device, such as a mobile phone or Bluetooth MP3 player. An example of this is the jambox, which is marketed as a smart speaker as it can also function as a speakerphone for voice calls in addition to being an audio playback device. Another modern variant is a DVD player boombox with a top-loading CD-DVD drive and an LCD video screen in the position once occupied by a cassette deck. Many models of this type of boombox include inputs for external video and outputs to connect the DVD player to a full-sized television. Gallery. See also, AV receiver, computer speakers, vehicle audio. References. Further reading, CBS Sunday Morning Boomboxes, A Real Blast from the Past, New York Times Review The Boombox Project. External links, Boombox history, mentions of the boombox in songs, movies, television, film and print at the Boombox Museum, Pocket Calculator Show, Huck Magazine Boombox Retrospective.